for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there everyone. In today's video, I wish to share something from my heart directly, openly, because as you know, I've been with you for quite some time now, and I've shared in many different versions of myself, and often mostly higher perspectives, but I don't want to do that today. Today I want to be realistically, livingly, humanely human in my inner child aspect, and I want to speak from my vulnerable self, my human self, because I believe that is what is required at this time, because my heart feels so, and so I will fulfill the needs and desires of my heart. As you know, I've been talking about this transgression phenomena for quite some time now, and it's been heavy on my heart from many different angles. And as much as always in my videos, after I go through a new level of breakthrough and initiation and experience and going back and merging deeper into the Christ essence, still, right, there's a lot of this integration happening in between, and it cannot be poured into a video. And what usually comes out is like a picture at the end, if you would think of something being created through a montage, and it would have layers over it, so it'd be like an edited version. So it's still raw, it's still authentic, but it's not in the moment of this feeling expression, which I wanted to do today. So I usually present things from a much higher vantage point. I understand on top of it all, above it all, this is the case. However, it is not the only truth, because we can't neglect the human self. We can't allow this to happen any longer, and I can't allow this to happen. I can't allow myself to do that to myself, because already enough has been done for me by the external hands that were not my own. So, as you know, I've been wanting to do a sharing about this transgression for quite some time now, and every single time I try to record about it, it comes off coldish. It's not really what I'm experiencing. I don't want to do a course. I don't want to, address these things as, people would not even understand them, because it was not their own experience. So they can't somehow integrate that if it's not a part of their own, right? It's not a part of their own training and what they have to go through. But in truth, it's not just a training ground. There are certain things I've shared with you before that we can't predict, that happen as they happen. So in the previous video, in which I mentioned that it's going to be one of my most authentic videos, and some people were like, what's happening to you? Are you in the negative polarity? No, I was being human. I was being realistic. I was being with feeling. And it's not that we have this vision, this ideal, and we fantasize about it, and it's just in our head. Our reality as a human is just as important. And it is what it is. Just like in our current world now, we're seeing so many reflections, and we want to make up belief stories about what they are, so it would be not so difficult for us to see where it's leading us as humanity. And we like to do like this so very often. So today in this video, I don't want to do that. And also, aside from that being my authentic video when talking about other things outside of me, I want this to be my most vulnerably authentic video expression when it comes to me, my own feelings and my own human embodiment. So I want to pour out my heart to all of you, because a lot has been happening behind the scenes that I couldn't ever put into a recording or sharing. And it's not my responsibility to do so. I don't have a need. I don't have a soul contract. It's nothing like that. It's just that it's a part of my own healing, as well as it may be my human outpouring of love through addressing the human counterpart would be as important enough to touch someone who might get to have their own awakening and own deeper experience, because I was always such a deep person. I always went so deep, and I was always misunderstood. And I'm not talking about the starseed phenomena, you know. It's like beings coming here from other realms, but still as just alternate versions of what we call a star seed. It's just parallel realities, you know, but still it's a type of a form, of a physical form, whatever the density. In my life, I've never been on earth even, and I know this to be true because, you know, most people, we feel. Like my mother knows she's had many, many lifetimes reaching far back. She knows, and she's gone through some of these lifetimes integrations and her own awakening and healing journey. I did not have that experience. All I had was constant outpouring of something I need to transmit and emit into this world. But it's not coming of a star seed, just another star constellation, but still, right? No. What came in my body was a light being, and this light being had a beautiful vision. And the illumined ones had a beautiful vision. And what happened was something that crushed my human spirit. It crushed it because it's not something that's just, oh, it just happens to some people. This happened because, you know, in this realm, the Christ bodies are always persecuted. Most people don't know that, but they are. Because when you come here to offer yourself as a pure vessel for a contemporary Christ embodiment, which means someone who is so pure, only willing to devote themselves to service and be nothing but goodness, exude nothing but love, and always get the opposite in their face. You know, I always had difficulty with being a human in terms of having human relationships. I enjoyed being a human from my own little inner bubble because it was always beautiful. But whenever I had to interact with other human beings, it was difficult because they had all these unexpressed feelings and emotions and traumas and drama, and they were always trying to pull me into their own, and it was like, difficult because for me, it was all so simple. And then I fell into these patterns and I was recreating them myself, and that was a part of my growing up. And when I did grow up, I finally found myself. And, you know, even though I did not have what most people have in these one-on-one intimate personal relationships, I had one, right? And this one was my mother, because she was a guardian of mine, not just a mother who brings you up. She was the most beautiful being who had nothing but unconditional love for me, because I've chosen that. I needed that if my path would, you know, remain as difficult as it was already. And so being a non-physical being coming into physical reality, you know, I always had allergies and things, you know, I don't talk about these things, but it's very difficult for me sometimes to just breathe this air. You know, a lot of people, you know, even starseed would feel that. But for me, it's even worse. And on top of it all, right, was this experience. And I want to share a lot of what's been happening behind closed doors. I want to open them today. And to address the boo-boos, you know, because I still live with a post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is, you know, we know that as PTSD. And I don't know how long it will remain. I hope not forever, but it's there every day. There's things coming to the surface over what happened. So, like I was trying to say, I did not have what most people have. I did not have the typical classic human life. But I had me, I had myself, and it was a blast. I enjoyed the life I was creating. And when I moved to those beautiful mountains, these Alps, I was creating such a beautiful reality for myself and inviting so many people in it. And it was just, for a while, it felt like this is it. And I felt like I'm on top of my world, and it cannot get better than that. You know, it can only get better. And then, I don't know how, behind the scenes somehow, right, I was hijacked. There was a lurker, there was a presence, there was a malicious presence there. And it took a while for me to discover it, as I've shared with you before. So the problem is that, you know, with most people who have difficulties, they're of their own wrongdoing. What happened to me in this body was not of my own hands and volition. It was a malevolent inception. And these experiments happening through me, and, you know, I still have dreams when I'm re-experiencing things and feeling these things that they're drilling into me, and these electric sensations and pulses, and I'm all wrapped in this energy, and it's like I'm breaking through it. And I've shared some of that on my page on Patreon more in depth, and I won't go into that. But the things I witnessed during this, you know, I don't talk about, because what started happening last year, when I shared with you when I nearly died, 3 times in a row was very difficult. And when these pains began, I thought, well, this is just the worst part. And I only have to go through that and stay alive. And that's when I was actually awakened through the Christ and saved through the Christ in a way, you know. The illumined realm and beings that just held me so I could uphold my physicality still. And we're not talking about abductions here. This was not an abduction. This was not physical in that regard. It's different. So it's very difficult to explain what I've had to see and what this was. And so that first part, right, which was followed by constant movement around. So we had 5 moves and then 6th one this year, right? It was terrible, as if I did not have enough stress already. And I've shared with you how I was losing the vital force, because before I had plenty, I could just overgive. And then I was getting 0. And what happened was, right, all of my body, because it was going through these electroshocks, you know, this frequency, right, this was all in me. And it enmeshed, imbued with my own physical human body frequency. And I didn't know what was put into me until it was time to pull that up. And I'm going to talk about this too, which was this year, last year, towards the end. And so after those moves, I felt, well, we just have to exit that place and I'm going to start new, so it's all going to be better. So if you remember, in October, we came back to what I call my homeland, and it was beautiful for a month. And then in November, huge pains began again. And I've started having these sleepless insomnia nights when I couldn't sleep. And it was this terror sensation, this terrible fear sensation moving throughout my body. And I kept seeing this swirling grids. They were very darkish in nature, and they kept spinning. And in that grid was embedded this most profound, primordial, like primal fear, and it was all stuck in the gut. And my belly started contracting, and I couldn't normally uphold it anymore. It was like being pulled against my own will. So I started realizing I have these nets, like grids, put into me, that there were these false vortices put into me. It wasn't just like a frequency modulation, you know, let's distort some DNA here and there. I'll talk about this, what this caused and what I had to go through. But all of these led me to eventually one night in December, I actually had the most terrible pain. This was a sharp pain here in my back. And I couldn't move. I couldn't lie down. The pain was so terrible. It was the worst pain in my life. And I practically had to go. We had, it was winter, right? We had snow. And I had to go alone with the cab to the emergency. And I don't even want to talk about how they treated me there. I felt I'm going to die again. And this is when it started happening again. These, it started happening a little before. But these, like, you're feeling like you're going to die. And the only question is, okay, is this my time? Am I leaving? You know, this is how it feels when you're dying, because you can't feel your life force anymore. It's just being sucked out of you. And it's terrible. And I know the difference because I used to live an abundant flow of life force. Go into my old videos. Go to look how I used to look, you know, a few years ago. As I've told you, not just that I lost half of my hair, it's just my hair is no longer the same. It's not just frizzy, it's like electrocuted here in the middle, and it's thinned out throughout my whole head, and it is what it is. And the problem, you know, these pains, I went to that emergency room alone, and I was in terrible pain. I was all alone. There was no one with me because you could not go, right, with the current conditions. And I was just there stranded on a wheelchair, and they did these tests. And I was there with, you know, painkillers running in my veins, and, you know, the nurses acting like terribly. The window was open. I was out in the cold. You know, I never talked about these things. But it was terrible. I thought I'm going to die. And I wanted to die again. I said, if this is hell, I don't want to be in it, right? Just let me out of here. And I even posed this question. I was like constantly dozing off. I'm passing out, and I was just saying, God, just, you know, take me. If now is my time, just let me go. You know, I can't deal with it. I can't take this pain. I can't take years of pain anymore. And this is for someone who was healthy. I was healthy as a peach. You know, I never had physical issues at all. Those of you who know, I used to climb a lot of mountains and just always outside in nature. And so when this happened, I came home, and the problem is it somehow reverberated to the front side. And I still can feel my skin here where the rib cage is. It like affected my epithelial cells, something, I don't know. you know. And after that, I started seeing these things. I was sick to the core. And what I was witnessing is I was looking at this grid and it was like constantly repetitive. And so the guidance was very, very clear. And I remember specifically a team of light beings coming at that point. I felt them. And they were giving me this assurance that this is because of that. And they said they had to remove something. And they know how painful it is, but they had to remove it. It was the most painful thing. I still don't know exactly what it was, or it's sort of an implantation that was. But it was terrible. And what I've seen that, I was sick and I was processing something as this was leaving. I saw like a constant replicas. They were like infinite replications of me created and put falsely into the astral grid. Because light beings, we illumined beings, we don't exist. We don't incarnate from these lesser planes. So for us, you know, to be affected by these beings who have the presence there, they had to artificially create replicas of us. That's what they were doing. They created replicas. They were gathering data about me to put me falsely into their grid. And when I witnessed this, I was disgusted. I was disgusted to a fault. And I was sick for days. And then I started doing this. I was guided to do this intense purging and cleansing of the body. And my team came and they said something about, it's finally time now to get rid of these parasites once and for all. You know, and that's what the guidance came through some beings also physically telling me, you know, what about physical parasites as well? Let's do the cleansing. So after we moved here, that's the first thing I started doing. And I talked about this, I recorded this whole healing video on Patreon, how to remove these things and how to physically tend to the body, because that was a must. But since then, I did not get any specific guidance on things, right? All I started feeling was this upsurge of processing. So actually for it was actually a whole month since we moved here, I buried myself in my work because that's what I do best. Because when I'm in my work, I'm serving others, I don't think about the pain that's still there, you know? And I'm so busy, always on the wheel spinning. And now I'm in this crisis because I gave myself space and room to breathe. And I said, you know, I'm just going to let it be on pause for a while, because this is not just, you know, the body's healing physically, but the body also has emotional wounds to process. And these are scars, you know, it's like scar tissue. Things grow back, but it's scar tissue, just like the physical body. And so these things remain, and PTSD remains, and it's coming in your sleep, and you still can't sleep. And it's a lot of these things that you can't just tell the human, it's okay, you're in the Christ, it's going to be okay. You know, it's this gradually sinking in and gradually moving into the body. But I'm going to tell you what this caused. Because when this happened, right, and it affected my teeth, like I said, I'm going to have some procedures done probably this month. And it's just what it is. It was a result of all that. And it was terrible, you know. And when you know it's not something you've done, when it's done on you, and you feel pain because you were violated, it was not of your free choice. Even though somehow at a higher level something needed to play out, no one knew how bad it would get. No one. Not even, you know, because that's how it is on this planet. This density is surreal in the way it functions and how stom-tom you can be and what can happen to the body. Just look at the ancient history, what has been happening to some of the most beautiful prophets and speakers of truth. And not only that, right? And those of us who came here with the purest mission and intention, we were violated the most. And it crushed my human spirit because I always thought that I'm living in this bubble of protection just because I have so much love. And it wasn't the truth. It was a harsh reality wake-up call that it's not what this earth is like. And I had to do a lot to first, you know, get rid of these influences and these transgressionists who oppose life and violate life to the core. And then I had to get rid of these influences. So when I thought, well, it's going to be good and, you know, it's over now. But another hell began for me this last winter. In November, it started happening. And after coming here and moving for the 6th time, it felt like things are starting now to catch up with me and all the emotions. And I can just start crying out of nowhere. And it's all locked in. It's all the traumas that, you know, have been piling up for years. And that's the thing I want to address today. Not exactly the mechanics of what these beings were doing. Some of it I understood. I'm going to share with you that one time in a specific activation meditation, I was told specifically I was shown there's an equation, because they kept saying to me that this pain and this is what they were causing was encoded. And I didn't know what that meant until one day I was guided into this meditation. And in that meditation, I was shown an equation. And the equation looked something with the root square and, what these beings are doing. The law of infinity is infinity equals infinity. It's like infinite law of life. And what they do is they put these square roots. So what they do is they compartmentalize and put reality into tiny little infinite pieces. And that means they would fragment aspects of the soul in this way. So they keep them in bondage. So souls could not ascend. And I had to go through this and witness this and have a breakthrough. But even with all that I am and I was and went through, the body is still not the same. And I don't know whether it ever will be. I don't know if my hair ever grows back, or maybe one day it gets so bad because it's getting worse, that maybe I have to shave it off. And that's not who I am. I don't imagine myself like that. Well, luckily I don't have such an ugly head. It's kind of normally shaped. It's not huge. But still, I'll tell you why this is so painful now. When I came to this part, is what I'm going through now and re-experiencing of everything, this trauma, is I'm witnessing what these beings actually do to life, to creation, which is to the feminine principle of life, the feminine Christ, the body. It's not just that the feminine principle has been hidden and ruled out of the equation and written out, right? It's that they transgress over it, against it. That's life, the very essence of life. So what they did, they wanted to completely annihilate, distort my human form, right? Polona, Aurea, dawn must be terminated. Remember what I said. I witnessed in witnessing the matrix, that grid that was playing out, and many, many things. I don't want to just say I was doing these healing light chambers, and I was seeing these false visions of what they were trying to show me about my beloved, and there were these very dramatic versions and distortions, and they were put there. One other thing is, one time I woke up from a dream in which this being came to me, and I was like sleeping and I wasn't, and I was in this not able to move, right? And he came to me and he whispered, he said it to me because he felt that I'm actually awake. I was just closing my eyes and I could feel him, and he was this tall being, and he said to me, "Hello, I'm David." And when I woke up, the feeling was bad because you know what this being did? He went to my leg and he started spinning it with that electricity. So he was basically performing experiments on my leg and the nervous system. And when I woke up, I knew he was a transgressionist. And I was like, "Oh, David, you are a transgressionist. Why did you choose that name?" Probably because the lineage of the house of David was a sacred lineage. So he had that name chosen. These beings know what they're doing. It's a mask. It's a pretense. They can present themselves as a specific way, but these are just their minions. It's not really a David. It's not really someone you're watching. You have to feel the energy. And I had to go through all of that. But even with all my breakthroughs, what remains still to this day is this feeling that I'm now so, I don't know the word in English. You know, when a beautiful form is distorted and becomes crass and crude and ugly. That's how I feel now. And it's in me. I feel like not myself anymore. And it's easy for someone to say, they're there. You know, like people come and say, well, you're still a beautiful woman. You know, it doesn't change what I feel inside. Every time I touch my head here, or every time I look at myself in the mirror, I know what really happened. I know that the sacredness of the feminine form that was a child of Aurea, who is a beautiful light being, is my spirit mother, who created me. She created me, and they took her away from me and me from her through those experiments. And that's the ugliest thing. And they created the body through their own image of death and destruction, right? Electrocuting me and all these things. And that hurts. It still hurts. You can't just go up in a vertical and say, oh, but it's all Christ's love anyway. That's a diversion to that which is not the truth. The truth is that the human has feelings. The human is purely innocent. It's this innocent child within all of us, and that's what they're doing. They're annihilating these forms. And in my case, they did it this way, right? What other people are experiencing on this planet, now they're doing with the V's, right? We know what that is, right? And all these tests and, poking us in the butt and everywhere. And it's an annihilation of our sacredness, of the sacredness of the body. And that's why it hurts me. Not because, oh, I've lost my looks. Yeah, that sucks too, by the way. I was never an egotistical person or narcissistic, but I like the way I look because I felt it resembles my spirit. That's why, because I thought it's in alignment with how I'm supposed to look. That's how I always felt, and now I don't feel that resembles how I am as a light being. I feel it's a deformation of my form. It's a distortion. And what this does is it locks the feminine in a prison. I remember now the movie called Malena, this beautiful actress played, and she was this beautiful woman, and men liked her. And so during the war, and women were mean, and they just kind of one day beat her up, and they cut all her hair, and she just had to be humbled. She could no longer be beautiful and express herself, and she had to wear these rags. And it's like, it's all showing us, look what we do to the beauty that is sacred feminine. Not that false feminine, right? All now made up with plastic surgery and cosmetics and appearance. Everyone can look as they want on movie, on screen, in a paper, in a magazine, but not in reality. People would say, well, you still have your inner light. Yes, but my inner human also still has form. And the most difficult thing is when they did that to me, to us, because we're in us, who we are, it's almost like they hijacked our experience and experiment, because I came here to teach this body illumination. It's almost like mocking this and saying, how can you teach body illumination? Look how you look. You can eliminate, instead of illuminate. And that's what all these demonic, devil expressions, transgression against life, the Antichrist does. It mocks life. And the Christ is not just this vertical consciousness expression and I'm always in it. What Christ said in many of his teachings and writings, he said, I suffered because people still suffered. That's compassion. He could feel or empathize with them through that state of compassion. And when I went through this body, when I feel and I cry, it's like my tears are becoming a river. And that river is cleansing not just my own experience, but many who've gone through this, like many, many more in their own way. Not saying that what happened to me happened to others. It was very profoundly, in detail, arranged, prearranged and calculated. That's what they do. There's these calculations. And when I saw that equation, I was sick. It's like, how can you fragment life? And in that meditation, I was actually guided to eat that. I wrote it on a piece of paper, and I swallowed it. And I lifted my body, and I imagined that I'm raising my body up to the great Christhood and to God. And I was surrendering that equation to them. And what I believe is through that work, the Illumined team can get closer to what these experiments are and can have better understanding of how can we work with them in the future and prevent certain things. And, but still they happen. And it happened to me, and it's my story. And I know no one can help me but myself. Not even myself sometimes. I feel helpless at times. Like, how? Because me as the self, I can't. It's Aurea, my spirit mother, that does that. And I will be honest with you that this feeling that I'm feeling for a while now is not depression, with how people would think. Because depression is a denial of life. You only want to die, and, it's like you can't even feel. I feel everything. That's not depression, my beloved. That's not depression. Depression is a lack of feeling. I feel to the core everything. I feel such sadness to what's being done to the bodies, and how beautifully the Divine Mother of Life creates them, and how they're being annihilated in this way, right? And I feel that's not depression. So what I do feel is I feel a desire to rise from this form. And people would say, oh, don't think about leaving yet. I will choose when I leave. Because I've experienced enough trauma in this life. I don't get to listen to when other people tell me how long I need to stay on earth. My being knows that. I, as a person, also don't. I would like to, but I don't. But I trust that my desire will one day take me to that path, because for me, it's never been earth. It's been a higher calling, and we've managed to do that. And I'm feeling this question always arising with me, like putting it up to God, to divinity, saying, well, will I be rewarded for that? Again, raised up. Will this human body be raised up? Just like I have a desire for many souls to liberate, to break free and be raised up. And also what many have been teaching, many beautiful beings who I don't like to call masters, because that becomes a distorted form and we put it on a pedestal. Children of God, children of the divine, which we all are. And we can all somehow find that path. No one said it's going to be easy. In my case, I thought it would be much easier those years back. And now I'm seeing it's not as easy. And a part of me, that human, still has desires. I still feel it. And as long as the heart is still alive with that desire, I'm still human. I'm not transcendental in any way. And so sometimes it's difficult because these desires would clash with just this desire to just be and ascend. And these desires would say, oh, but I want to experience this and this love and that kind of joy for life and these events. But it's difficult, because our world is as it is. And it's hard enough, as if already. And then for us to be free children and just, we see how our world has become just one great eye monitoring everything and everyone. So for me, I don't know if the goal is so much the earth, but what we're creating, what the higher beings are creating for that which is to come next. And it's not the same as death. It's a change of form to another substance, to a refined substance. And it's still a mythical reality, and it's this blend, right? And the human would feel certain things. And in that difficulty, it's extreme sometimes, because you have to know, because of what was done, I don't feel any sense, I don't see myself as physically attractive. And because of that, I often feel like I don't deserve to have that love. I don't feel anyone can love me as I'm now. I feel like, yeah, maybe they have a memory of how I used to be or used to look, and the spirit is still the same. Just a little sad, because there's another experience that which I haven't walked through back then yet. It's a mature version of me, but also the innocence is still there. And sometimes it's crying out for more of that love. And I know that no one else can have that love for us but the self. And so the reason why I'm sharing this with you is how to find that love from within and all the opposition. For me, that is the Christ, is to feed ourselves that love, is to give it, even though you feel unattractive, how other people would see you. And I'm constantly hiding my head and all these things. I feel terrible. I feel such stress because of that, as if I hadn't gone through enough stress already, right? But these are the feelings I'm feeling, and I can't deny them. So there's no there, oh, just change your perceptions about yourself. This is not New Age, my dears. This is reality. This is feeling. Anyone who truly feels will be bringing up a lot through the human counterpart. And people who want to deny that feeling will go into this fake sense of vertical kind of expression of life, which is not truly what we're doing and what we're here for. I've often said that we are sending the human form. We're sending the human body and the human template at the spirit level, which is probably one of the most difficult tasks. And because of my mission, I've shared this before, my mission is the greatest wound of mine. Because of the mission I had to experience, I had to endure these things as a human, and the human suffered as a consequence. And that's a fact. And that's nothing we can say or wish away. Just with light, I have so much light in me. And still, sometimes I feel it's not enough. You see, it requires constant pouring in when these things happen. And, also in cases of many people who had abductions, my mother read a lot about it. Most of them have PTSD all their life. They're never the same. And even psychologists speak about it. They can try remedying their life, but still they were a victim of something. And it was a difficult thing to process and digest. And our bodies were affected differently. Mine was greatly transgressed. I still don't know how long or how much I can heal physically. I know many times I've said before, I'm still alive, yay. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm alive, but in this shape and form I'm in now. Well, thanks a lot. That's how you feel often, Well, I'm alive, yes, but dot, 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 a lot that follows that. It's not as simple. I'm just saying that. It's not as simple. And this is where we are. And the reason why I'm recording this is to make you aware that there's so much happening behind the scenes, that we're all struggling with things. And people will think just because I always have wisdom to talk about and share with you, I don't have struggles of my own. I didn't have them the way I have them now before, but I do now. And they're quite real. They're here, and I have to deal with them, and no one else can. And I can't find that love from no person on earth, no matter how much I love them. They can't love me back the same way because they did not have that experience. And so only I can offer that to myself and find it somehow through the spirit of love of the Christ. And it's not always easy, you know. Some days are difficult, some days are maybe harder, or some days more easy, but it is what it is. So there's much more I could share, but I don't want to make this too long, which probably already is, you know, according to the sun going down. So I just want to say thank you for watching. I know a lot of people expect things to be, and when they're like this, they're confirming the reality as a status quo, but the reality is much different. And when I started communing with real, intelligent, illumined light beings, they were telling me a different story than those false ones. You know, they're trying to present a different picture. It's a complex reality, and not many people want to embrace that. And even what's happening on Earth as a constant escalation of where we're being moved to, because no one's refusing. Everyone's agreeing with what's happening. So things are not going to get much better if that continues. Things are just going to go worse. Not because I'm negative, but because I see where humanity is moving. And not a lot of people are awakening the soul presence through the Christ. So they're just playing in the status quo and therefore maintaining it. So people who think that I'm negative, I'm just being realistic in terms of what I'm shown as the choices of many affecting the whole. And not many know what's going to happen in the next maybe few months, years even. We all can do only one thing. Continuously bring ourselves into this now moment where this divine mother healing can happen, because every moment we have the responsibility to do so, and that's the only thing we're here for at this time. Like I've shared before, to cultivate love, to bring love to the body, to the child. We've each been wounded, every one of us, just different levels, but still. And it's as much, I guess, as we could handle. The assignment was as big as our love in this lifetime, and how much we could pour in that love to help the whole. And in my own process, I was sick a lot, and I was still helping other people. And I've helped many other people. I even helped people find their beloveds, and people finding more about themselves and who they are, because the spirit can always act. That's what my Illumined team has told me. You can act even in your deathbed. You're still, you know, a fully functioning, illuminating being. But the human is not okay. And that's the message for today. The human also needs to be okay. And that's what we're striving for. That's what the Illumined beings are doing, these gifts, although temporarily they're not witnessed as gifts by us, but for the long run, for the betterment of our life experiences, these are sacrifices they're taking. And I was just one of these sacrifices. And still I have to make my life a living whole and an offering of love no matter what. And so that continues to be our only quiet, humble responsibility. And in this life I shall remain, maybe perhaps more withdrawn from the way I used to be, more hunkered down, but still always Aurea. Thank you for watching. I love you very much. With so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care. Bye for now.